Well, George, hey, thank you so much for meeting us today on the Zoom. Where are you calling in from again?
I live in Jupiter.
Oh, sweet. All right, so a little bit far from us. Jupiter, Florida, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sick. All right. Well, thanks to meet us. I'll do a little intro for you, and maybe anything that I miss, you can help me out.
All right.
So, well, actually, you know what? How about there's no one better to intro than yourself.
Okay.
So how
I
about
was
you to
looking
start?
forward to your intro.
No.
Wanted to see what you came up with.
I just didn't want to start talking and be like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it justice because I know you obviously your business is a great cause and it's got great recognition and there's a great story behind it, but I feel like your passion and where it all comes from it would sound way better coming from you.
All right. Fair enough. I've been a firefighter for 25 years. Worked for Miami-Dade, fire rescue. Um, and about 13, 14 years ago now, 2012, early 2012, uh, I sat down with one of my buddies and we were looking at an apparel brand that was an off-duty apparel brand for the fire service, and we did not like the shirts they were making. Sort of really loud affliction style shirts,
Hmm.
not my style. I'm more laid back, mellow,
Yeah.
not in your face. And anyway, we just started rapping about it, and one thing led to another. It sort of started on the back porch of the firehouse, and we started hooking irons based on off that conversation. And obviously, it evolved over a period of weeks and about a month.
Hmm.
But after about a month of talking about it, we said, "Oh, let's throw a little money at this and let's incorporate. Let's get a website. Let's X Y Zeta."
Yeah.
And you know, 14 years later, 15 years later, here we are.
Wow.
I moved fulfillment out about a year ago, which we used to handle in-house, and now a friend of mine that owns a leather company,
Hmm.
he's taken on fulfillment in his warehouse.
Oh, very nice.
So that's been going swimmingly well. So I'm sort of low on capital investments and big on creativity.
Right.
I decided early on I wasn't going to invest in a print shop equipment or laser machines or any of those things, and I was just going to focus on the creativity
Nice.
and pushing the brand forward.
Very nice. All right. Well, George, I just wanted to get into a few things. One thing you kind of already mentioned, what kind of inspired you to start Hook and Irons, and like the brand identity. But one thing I really wanted to ask is like, Hook and Irons obviously isn't just an apparel brand, right? It's a way to like kind of celebrate the fire service. And how do you ensure your designs reflect the history and that tradition?
It's important for me to be authentic, because I have been doing the job for so long. I sort of got my finger on the pulse of what the guys feel when they're out there, where you show pride, and sort of things that are over the top and cringy. Like we wouldn't want to be considered a hero or anything like that. I
Hmm.
think most firemen just think of it as a very blue collar job that they're proud to do. Um, so how do I reflect that in the apparel? I try to focus a lot on the history.
Hmm.
There's a lot of history in the American Fire Service. I think I was one of the first people who sort of put that to the forefront and slapped it on a t-shirt and said, "Hey, there's a lot of things here to be proud of."
Hmm.
And we don't necessarily need to advertise that we're firefighters. We're just sort of celebrating it, and that's
Right.
been the ethos.
And how long? Are you still a firefighter like to this day? And how long were you?
Yeah,
When?
I'm still a full-time firefighter.
Nice. And how? When did you start?
1999. Was hired in 99.
Wow, that's great. Have you gone to different like fire stations, or have you kind of just been? Have you been to the same one since you started?
No, Miami-Dade is a huge department. I think we're up to 70 plus
Oh
fire
wow.
stations. I work in the north part of Dade County, so a very busy area, a very active area,
Mhm.
and I've sort of been in that neighborhood my whole career. So, but I mean, Dade County's massive. It goes from basically where you would leave South Florida and start heading into the Keys, all the way up to the Broward County line, which is an hour drive north, sort of where Dolphin Stadium is at.
Oh
Dade
wow.
County covers it. Yeah.
Very cool. Um, and so you come up with all the designs yourself, right? So you do them yourself?
Well, I come up with all the concepts myself.
Mhm.
I don't draw them. I'm really good at finding talented designers. I think that's my superpower.
Nice.
I'm really good at finding really creative artists, and I come to them with a concept. Most of the time, they're not firefighters, so there
Mhm.
has to be like a patience on their part to be willing to at least dig in to make the artwork look authentic to a firefighter.
Mhm.
And that's how I've always approached it. So I find the artist, I reach out with a concept or a very loose concept of what I like. I might share with them a one of their previous designs. So I'll
Mhm.
say, hey, I really love this design. I like the style you did in the lettering, or I love the way you drew this. I would like for you to do something in this vein or style, but make it appropriate for my brand.
Yeah. And how do you narrow down like what ends up being the design that you choose?
Well, lately, you know, when I first started, there's a lot of things that I can look back and think that how lucky I was, and I didn't realize how lucky I was. And when we started the company with $10,000,
Mhm.
which is, nothing when you're trying to start an apparel brand, and we used every single design we made.
Mhm.
Um, Now, 14 or so many years later, I'll make a bunch of designs, and not all of them will make the cut.
Right.
Maybe something got lost in translation, or my vision of what I thought it was supposed to look like. And by the time we get through revisions, I'm like, well, we tried,
Yeah.
and so now I would say about 80% of the finished designs
Mhm.
make it to your print shop.
Wow.
And I find that seems to be a good recipe.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I had so many like lucky things. I just found designers that were willing to give me really good prices.
Mhm.
You know, I started in Facebook when Facebook wasn't charging businesses for ads,
Right.
so I was able to build up my following for free.
Yeah.
Like these that are just unheard of now that you've
Yeah.
got to pay for every single thing.
Oh
So the
yeah.
time
You can't even get visibility on Facebook much.
it's crazy. I acutely am aware of how lucky I was. I didn't know it at the time because I mean, we were all going through the early years of social media where they're
Mhm.
getting you hooked, getting you on board, giving it to you for free.
Yeah.
And then
Pennies on the dollar back then. Even
yeah,
like Google ads were like pennies.
yes.
Pennies for keywords.
And
So,
once they had you locked in, they got you. So
yeah.
it was able to grow my brand for I don't even think it would be possible nowadays to
Mhm.
start an apparel brand for what the cost that I did it in
Mhm.
order to get eyes on your products.
Yeah. Interesting. And so you obviously are working with Real Thread now. You haven't always worked with Real Thread, correct?
No, I was with a different print shop um earlier, but Real Thread now is partners or owns the print shop that
Yeah.
I use. But I did use Real Thread early on,
Mhm.
and then I found Trust,
Yeah.
which now, Real Thread owns Trust. And I had been with Trust for probably 7 years.
Mhm.
Um, So Real Thread and Trust were probably been two of the three print shops I've used. And the other one I had a really bad experience with, and they were one of the probably the first print shop we used, and I
Yeah.
moved away from them. And they're still around.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think they have the same ethos, or they definitely don't have the same attention to detail.
Right.
You Learning about the industry and having no background in the industry when I started, there was a big thing with a lot of the print shops that, they'd say, okay, well, if as long as we don't mess up
Right.
5% or 10% of your shirts, you can't complain about our misprints.
Jeez.
So if I ordered 100 shirts and I said five were messed up, they'd be like, well, that was in the agreement. And
Gosh.
I'm like, and I think that was a normal thing. I don't know if it's still a normal thing out there,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely Real Thread was never like that. And Trust was not,
Right.
if you ordered 200 shirts, you got 200 shirts.
Right.
And
Yeah. Typically, our process is, you know, is big if there's misprints and we have less than, if you agreed on 200 and we have 196 correct, four are not correct, we print the other four. Unless there's like we ring you up and you're like, no, it's okay, I'll just take the credit or whatever it is. But usually it's not like, it's definitely nothing of what you experienced before, which is like, oh, sorry.
yeah, and I just, both companies have had very similar ethos. I mean, you don't ever want to work with a company that's going to be penny pinching. You
Right.
know, if they're trying to keep you as a customer,
Mm-hmm.
and they mess up a few, they should reprint them.
Right.
If they had a couple of extra good ones, they go in the batch,
Yeah.
and vice versa. I think I've also tried to be a good customer where there's been maybe something I didn't love about the print. Um, I just discuss it
Right.
with the rep and say, hey, I'm not asking for a reprint, but we got to fix this on the next go around or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think over the last 8 or 9 years, I've built that relationship with you guys
Right.
where I'm pretty mellow. You guys have been really mellow and accommodating, and we've sort of, I think, taken the relationship to the next level.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the transition between working with Trust to now working with Real Thread, obviously both, now you got both teams on your side, and both companies. Obviously, the reason why the acquisition happened was like, between print quality and attention to detail, and just like culture of who's printing and who's talking to the customers were very like minded. And so hopefully that transition has been really good for you. Sounds like it
No,
has been.
it's been great. It's been a good and bad thing. The mainly good, 90% good is that, Trust and Real Thread, having an expertise in hybrid inks,
Mm-hmm.
water-based inks, discharge printing,
Right.
sort of like it's both of you guys' wheelhouse,
Mm-hmm.
Excel. And I started with those types of prints. And in one way, I'm like, wow, it always comes up. I'm like, did I pigeonhole myself and to never being able to do plasticine? Um, but I wanted to start with the best, and my perception, and I feel like most customers' perception, there's those type of inks
Mm-hmm.
have a substantive feel that's better.
Yeah.
T-shirts that I choose are better than the average t-shirts. And so here I am now, and I will say that I think I made the right choice if you were to look at my customer retention model.
Mm-hmm.
I think I keep um, more customers than your average apparel brand. My returning
Yeah.
customer really high.
That's very good. All right. So George, shifting gears a little bit here. You kind of you touched on a little bit of like the quality that you look for.
Mm.
When you're choosing like your next print design and you receive it, what is the quality that you're necessarily looking at? Is it the print quality, or are you also looking at like the apparel quality? And I guess the next
Oh,
question is, do you switch between different garments, like different brands, or do you just always use the same one, different colors?
I have a pretty much now I think I'm down to like three different blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So there's an issue here. Like when you're running a brand, a t-shirt brand, and you have a niche brand like I do, and probably most of your other customers that are small apparel brands like mine, is that you get a return customer. Yeah, they like the design,
Mm-hmm.
but a large portion of them, and my customers are men largely, somehow or another that blank worked for them. So I've heard things and like the next level blank,
Mm-hmm.
the the collar retains its shape,
Yeah.
no matter how old it is. Doesn't matter if the shirt is 10 years old. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It retains its shape. And so I'll get compliments like, oh my gosh, this shirt doesn't pill. The neck always retains its shape. Things like that. In the beginning, we tried out Bella Canvas and again, another great blank, but it didn't have the same quality on on the collar.
Mm-hmm.
That was a noticeable difference. The collar was different, and I would get feedback from the customers going, "Oh, the this one looks stretched out after a year of owning it, or something
Right.
like that." Or are certain blanks that probably appeal to a, a guy like my customer over other blanks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tri blends. I learned early on that tri blends feel like silk, but firemen want maybe a little thicker
A little
blank.
heavier cotton. Yeah.
Yeah, a little heavier cotton. They're big dudes. They're generally not little skinny guys, that are even though there are some out there like that, but your general
Yeah. The
fireman wants
masses.
wants a slightly thicker shirt,
Yeah.
but maybe with an athletic cut. So
Yeah. Tri blends are tricky because they are comfortable to the feel, but the way they fall aren't always the greatest.
yeah, it's not for some body styles it's not complimentary.
Right.
So and then it's just one of those things that now I feel like I'm an expert. I like, oh, I can look at a blank. Yeah, that one will work, or it won't.
Right.
For
Have
my
you
people.
have you tried other next level like other SKUs, or do you
Uh,
mostly use like the 3600?
I go between the 3600 and the 6210. Is that
Yeah.
CVC?
Mm, yes.
I think the 6210 is the ultimate t-shirt for most men.
Right.
Like it appeals to the largest subset of men. It is the doesn't shrink, lasts the longest, fits the most people. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've never found a better blank that hits all the marks. There
Yeah.
might be blanks that feel different in different ways. Like I love the feel of the comfort colors.
Right.
That thicker 100% cotton shirt. But if I'm being honest, comfort colors is not as durable.
Right.
It's not as durable of a blank.
Yeah,
It's
the garment dyes over so many washes by nature tend to fade, and some people like that, some people don't, especially
yeah,
depending on, what is the brand behind your company. Like, is it something that is durable and looks the same, or
yeah.
is it something that's going to change over time? And so yeah, one of our fan favorites in the office as of late is the Next Level 7200,
Okay.
which is, if you haven't looked at it, we could definitely get you a blank for sure. But it's, like the 3600, but it's on the heavyweight side.
Oh,
So it's like on a heavier weight tier. So maybe
oh well,
something
maybe
you may or may not like, but we could definitely send you one if you want to try it out.
I'm coming out with a series which you guys will have in your hands soon. Is
Mm,
a sort of hip hop inspired um, firefighter shirts.
yeah.
And I've noticed the younger guys like these heavier weight shirts. They're
Yeah.
more in style, right? So I probably will be trying it for
Sweet.
that series. So
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get you one sent out. So I definitely get
nice.
a chance to look at that one and feel it, wear it, check, test its durability.
Sure.
But one question I want to ask you is, over the years, right? You got 14, 15 years of hook and irons. What has been the most outstanding design that's the fan favorite, the one that you like the most, the one Is there one that
Uh,
like people asked for it to come back if it's something that was only for a limited time?
Saint Florian, Saint Florian design is bar none the
Mm-hmm.
best, most popular design I've ever done. And you guys have been printing it for 4 years now,
Right.
nonstop.
Yeah.
Um, it's I think it hits all the marks. It's a beautiful design. It's got a historical perspective to it, and it sort of says the right things about the brand all in one design.
Nice.
Um, it's probably my most tattooed design, which I've
Oh yeah. We've been hearing a
com
lot of that. People like
complimented lately is like quite a few of my designs end up becoming tattoos, and it's like such a huge compliment. I'm like
yeah.
super humbled by it. Probably Saint Florian is the most tattooed design.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like one of a few people we've heard as of like in this last month where they said that their designs are becoming tattoos.
Oh
And
yeah,
it one
I've got
company was is very different
easily
where
100, easily 100 different
oh
posts,
wow,
people sharing stuff like that.
that's
Yeah, no,
crazy.
it is. It's incredibly humbling.
Right. That must feel really good.
Oh, it does. I mean, you go through two phases when you start a brand. You get like really like over the moon happy
Mhm.
when the first person that has no affiliation with you at all. It's not friends of your mom. It's not friends of your friends. It's not some perfect stranger decided to go on your website,
Mhm.
purchase a design that you made. Like that's it right there. That's your first sign that you're doing something right.
Right.
That's not to knock all the wonderful family and friends out there that are there to support you, but
Right.
that's the
It
first
hits
time.
different, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But uh, then probably your next thing as a brand, like if somebody's willing to tattoo it on their body, like wow,
Right.
like you got something there. Your brand has legs.
Right.
Um, there are other signs out there, but if those aren't two major signs, then I don't know what is.
Mhm. Um how or where has been like somewhere in the world crazy where you didn't think you would get an order from? Or is it just in the US or have you like
Oh
seen or
no,
gotten tagged across, across the world?
all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, Canada regularly. We
Mhm.
ship to Canada, um, Germany. Um, yeah, I don't know how many countries are left. We have, so we'll see. We'll see.
And I haven't looked personally. I haven't looked through like the archive of all the orders you've had in the past. But have there been any like specialty inks or anything that stuck out to you that you've used that you liked? Like maybe like glow in the dark or puff. Have you or
No, I've been like from day one,
mm-hmm,
discharge and water base. There
ride or
might have
die
been one
discharge?
or two. Yeah, there might be one or two where we've just based on the print where we've pushed the hybrid ink more towards with more plastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
We did a tonal black on black, and I'm not sure if you guys did that or Trust did it, but that one we needed like a shiny black on a
Yeah.
black shirt. That was probably the closest thing I've come to like a straight up plastisol print.
Right.
It's funny, but these are things that you really should consider when you're starting a brand.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't regret it because there's an expectation there. But at some point, you also have to think if you're going to get pinned in, um, saying you're only going to use made in America.
Right.
I mean, if things
That
go swimmingly well for you,
then that's great.
that's great. But you're going to come to a crossroads where you're going to go, I don't have the freedom of creativity because
Mm-hmm.
my choices, I just took 90% of my choices away.
Right.
I made a conscious decision to eliminate all these choices for apparel.
Mm-hmm.
And in the apparel industry is sort of shady, Made in America doesn't really mean made in America.
Yeah.
You got to look at the
Means
definitions and all
put
that.
put together in America.
Yeah, yeah. So you really, I would suggest to any brand starting out, like, do your research and figure out where you're going to put your flag in the sand.
Right.
Because pivoting later on down the line, if you do have a good idea, is is jarring, and you will upset customers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, pick what's important to you early on and stick with it. I will tell you, and if there's any other small apparel brand out there that, you're working with a limited budget,
Mm-hmm.
um, you drop between $3,000 and $6,000 on a design if you're going to go and get a few hundred t-shirts made up.
Right.
Um, you don't have a lot of wiggle room for mistakes
Mm-hmm.
unless you've got a lot of money. You don't have a lot of, right? So if you go and you choose a fly-by-night print shop, or the local one down the street because you drive past the warehouse every day, and it's cousin Pepe's friend
Yeah.
that just started it a year ago, and like, you're gonna throw that guy a couple $1,000, and maybe your budget, maybe your working account is only $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always felt like I'd rather pay a little bit more or a premium to know that I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Which means, okay, at some point you really question, are my margins going to be good enough? Am I willing to knock a couple points off my margins to have that peace of mind?
Right.
Because I get consistent quality, because I have, if I need a workaround, or if I need to change something, they'll work with me. Like, those are
Mm-hmm.
all really important things. And when it comes down to it, yeah, you can probably save a couple bucks here and there, but you're probably trading off headaches and not consistent quality. And in t-shirts, it's really easy, super easy to find a place that they give you one set of shirts, you
Mm-hmm.
do a reorder on that same set, and all of a sudden it looks completely different.
Right.
And there's 50 variables in the way in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
A design can be off center. It can be tilted or canted. It can
Right.
be sitting high on the left breast. It could be like, you put on the shirt, everything looks great, and all of a sudden the left breast is high. It's not where it should be. What are you going to do now? You're going to go argue. You're going to say, hey, this doesn't look right. You're going to send them pictures. I'm like,
Yeah, it's just a headache that's not worth it.
no, you need, all Hook and Irons is the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all it is the t-shirt. It's And firemen hopefully identify with it because of their lifestyle, because it shares the same ethos, because it represents how they feel about the fire service. So, like, if I can't get the t-shirt right, the, there's nothing else left.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not making curated high-end coffee.
Right.
Go, well, it's a crappy t-shirt, but I love the coffee.
Right.
Like, if I'm making a crappy t-shirt, it's a crappy brand.
Right.
There's no other way around it.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that with me. I had a few questions jotted down that I want to read verbatim. It's basically about like the community and the future of Hook and Irons.
Mm.
Um, right. Hook and Irons has built an incredibly passionate following. How has your apparel helped strengthen that community? But specifically, can you talk about and tell us about the fundraising efforts following Hurricane Helene?
Sure. Yeah. So, I do feel, I mean, nobody's ever come out and patted me on the back for it, but
Mm-hmm.
I do know, and I do feel that I have brought a recognition of the history of the fire service to the forefront. I've done it in a fun way, t-shirts and
Yeah.
blog, and things like that. I do think I've brought also a recognition of the artwork of the
Mm-hmm.
fire service, how beautiful it is as well. If you look at my designs, they harken back to the hand pinstripes on the fire trucks, the
Mm-hmm.
old leaf on the fire trucks, the old advertisements. And, I think it took me to see it, to bring it to the forefront, where now I see it in my competitors you know, designs.
Mhm.
And, um, I know that I was the first to do that, so I'm really have a lot of pride in that part. I don't know if my competitors would admit or agree with me, but when you're first one there, I guess you get to say it.
Yeah.
Um, as for the fundraising, I've always given heavily to the volunteers.
Mhm.
So there's probably about 800,000 volunteer firefighters in the country. They survive on pancake breakfasts and fundraisers in the local communities and all that stuff. And so if they ask, I give.
Right.
They want something for raffle, for auction, whatever, and they can auction, make a couple $100 for their saving for a new fire truck or whatever it is in their little town.
Mhm.
Um, that I've always from day one we've done that. This year, because we moved fulfillment up to Waynesville, which is just outside of Asheville,
Yeah.
about half an hour outside of Asheville. We were particularly affected by Hurricane Helene. My warehouse was not damaged, but it got really sketchy. And
Mhm.
the guys and gals that work there doing fulfillment and work with Spencer at Axe and all, their houses were affected. Businesses were affected. Our
Jeez.
fulfillment center didn't have power and didn't have internet. It didn't have internet for about a month and a half.
Mm.
Uh, it's hard to do fulfillment when you don't
Right.
have internet.
Yeah. How do you print the
Uh,
labels?
yeah, we got a Starlink. So when we sort of got through our trauma, and I started hearing stories about the Asheville firefighters. A couple of fortuitous things happened. I saw online a tattoo artist do this really cool design,
Mhm.
teamed up with her. We gave all the proceeds to the Asheville Fire Department and we just threw it out there. I thought we were going to order. I, yeah, honestly, I'd be like, oh, if we sell 300 or 400 shirts, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Throw them a couple $1,000 and it'll be a good thing. And it went viral. It went viral, and we ended up
Mhm.
doing 2 rounds. We ended up on Fox and Friends.
Yeah. I remember
Um,
hearing that.
I want to say that in terms of like total sales,
Mhm.
in that Asheville, it was close to $200,000 in total sales.
Wow.
I mean, maybe even a little bit more
Mhm.
when all said and done. And we were able to write them a check for right at $100,000. I mean, so we
Yeah.
sent $100,000 to the Asheville firefighters, and like from a little nothing t-shirt company that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it was really something unique.
Would you ever have
Uh,
guessed like 15 years ago you would be doing something like that?
no, I wouldn't have guessed last year. Like, I don't know, the stars aligned.
Mhm.
We were able to handle it with fulfillment when that was a big deal.
Right.
Had it have been a year earlier, we wouldn't have been able to put, I don't know. I want to say we in total probably 5,000 orders.
Right.
We were in 5,000 orders through the shop. I mean, that wouldn't have been it wasn't even logistically possible a year ago.
Right.
So the stars aligned in the fact that there was interest. We were able to handle it. You guys were able to handle the order.
Mhm.
Um, all those things came together, so we were able to pull it off. It nearly killed me, but
Yeah.
we were able to pull it off. I didn't realize what I was getting into.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Um, Tell us what's the future for Hook and Irons?
Well, so another customer of yours, Spencer, who does
Mhm.
my fulfillment, he owns Axe and All Leatherworks. Um, we are, and you guys get this story first. We're entering into a partnership,
Yeah.
um, where he'll become a partner of Hook and Irons. Him and his wife Courtney, and they're going to take over operations.
Mhm.
Fulfillment aspect has gone really well. And so I'd like to keep expanding, but I can't do it alone.
Right.
I learned that last year. Um, I'm 51 years old.
Mhm.
I'm, I'm not as young as I used to be. So I don't want to get in the way of the growth.
Right.
The company's growing, and I think I found, I don't think, I know I found a great partner in Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked together for the last 5 or 6 years, and we've uh, we've gotten to know each other really well. So that's what's next, and we got a couple of we got a couple of tricks up our sleeve. We want to get launched by the end of the year
Mm.
that I think are going to be really well received in the fire service community. But yeah, you got to stay tuned for that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, but definitely excited. I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's near future stuff. Yeah,
Very cool. All right, George. Well, I have like just one last question,
sure.
and I know you've kind of again, you've kind of you do really great at answering the questions before I ask them. Or at least touching on some of them. But if you could give us just like like an overview, like last final thoughts of brands that are looking to start, what is like maybe like the key aspect of advice?
Um, this I could definitely teach a whole class on this, but a
Right.
couple of small bits of advice. If you were going to start an apparel brand, I would say that, recognize a niche that hasn't already been exploited.
Mhm.
Now, that niche could be stylistic, right?
Yeah.
So pick an easy one like CrossFit.
Mhm.
There's 50,000 little CrossFit brands out there. And to me, a large majority of them look exactly the same.
Yep.
So, maybe you've got a different take on a style or the clothing, or hey, you love doing CrossFit, but you don't like wearing the muscle tees.
Mhm.
You if you can carve out a niche because they're not serving your needs,
Yep.
whether that's through style or fit or brand awareness or whatever that is, and nobody's filling that need, then you have a good idea to
Mhm.
act upon. Um, that's how Hook and Irons was started. Um, the next thing to do is don't overanalyze it and don't compare yourself to anybody else. Like if
Mhm.
you are making designs that you like, I promise you, and there's a lot of terrible things about the internet, but one of the wonderful things about the internet,
Mhm.
you will find a like-minded individual who thinks what you're doing is cool. Like
Yeah.
it is a guarantee. If you are passionate about it and you like it, you'll find another person. Will you find 100,000 people? I don't know about that. That's where the test comes in.
Right.
You will definitely find your people. And will it be enough to sustain a business? That's for you to decide. But if you lean on those two things, uh, there you'll have success. You'll have success. I promise you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, George, that's all I really had. Hey, thank you so much again for your time and just answering and just being sharing your inspiring story. Is there any final thoughts you want to say?
No, no, thanks for having me on. Hopefully this works for you guys.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be real good. We'll definitely share it across some of the platforms and YouTube, the vertical platforms, newsletter. Definitely just want to share, you know, the inspiring parts of our conversation and just there's so many people who want to start a brand or so many people who have and maybe have hit a crossroad and maybe there's some nuggets that will help people continue on.
I hope so. I hope so. I wish I would have had somebody to give me some advice along the way.
Right.
I definitely had some lonely moments, but no, if it helps anybody, that'd be great.
Awesome. Hey George, well again, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Hey, cheers. Oh,
Yeah.
and we'll also get that shirt sent to you.
Oh yeah. No, no,
Okay.
that's sure. I mean, I'm super excited about these shirts because it's a leap
Mm-hmm.
stylistically for me. So we'll see. We'll
Sweet.
see if firemen like them, but I think the younger guys are gonna like them.
Yeah. All right, George. Have a great rest of your day.